And so, hello there, welcome back to the Writing Advice Q&A! I'm your host, Max, also known as M. Karen. Today, I have a very special question and an answer just for you. We're going to be talking about the idea of writing from personal experience, my own experience with it, what I think about it, and more coming to you relatively soon. Of course, before I get started with today's question, I want to let you know that if you have a question of your own, please consider leaving it in the comments down below. I'll make it a point to reply to everyone, and I do take those questions as consideration for subjects of the main video, such as this one. A viewer sent this question, and hence, here is my answer in a moment. Before I give you the answer, I want to let you know, as always, the formal disclaimer that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Writing from personal experience. A viewer sent a question asking me about the idea of writing from personal experience. Do I do it? Do I draw inspiration? Or do I just take whole cloth? I would like this to also be like a nice let's talk conversational subject. I would like to hear what you feel about this particular subject, because again, everyone kind of does things differently. In my own personal history, I relate very personally to a quote, and I'm not gonna give it justice because I'm just paraphrasing here, but there's a quote from Terry Pratchett, in which he describes being at the funeral, at his father's funeral, and watching as the coffin is descending into the grave, and being the writer that he is, he's feeling this terrible sadness, of course, because, you know, the loss of life and the loss of someone meaningful to you like your father, and amidst this feeling of dread, he realizes that he is a writer, and that this feeling that he's feeling right now has never felt this real, and that he knows, because he's a writer, that he's gonna use this someday in his writing. And I don't know where I heard that. I think it might have been Neil Gaiman told that story someday. I think he did. I think it may be from his Make Good Art speech. I think it might just be. I think. Either way, that story stuck with me, because I relate to it in a very personal way. I have never, not even since like I was like a wee little person and I was like writing awful stories, I never just took things from my life and put them in a story, or had events in a story shaped after things that happened to me. That's just not something that I've ever done. The same way that I've never had avatars that were just basically me. And I'm not saying that in a kind of dismissive way. Like, people do that sometimes, and that's fine, to each their own, but I never did that. When I play RPGs and video games, I never make myself. I always make a person who exists in this world. So for me, it's always a little weird, the idea of writing from personal experience. Do I do it? I don't think so, and I don't think I even do it subconsciously. What I know that I do, as a matter of fact, is that I do take essence of things that have happened to me. The same way that Terry Pratchett felt that true, real feeling of sadness, I have too felt stuff like that, with loss of friends and loss of family, and particularly events that happened to me, regarding the fairness of the world and justice and stuff like that. I feel that stuff very, I guess, real. And in my stories it has come up, in which characters were in situations like that. And because of my own feelings and personal experience, I guess I managed to channel how I felt to make their feelings appear more real. This is all sounding very meta, but I do hope that I am at least making sense. For me, it's never been whole cloth events. It's never been exactly what happened, how it happened. For me, it's always been the essence of things. The feelings I felt, or in the case of nature, the things I saw and how they made me feel. There is, I live on the West Coast, and there's something incredibly delightful about seeing the endless form of the ocean in the distance. Especially when you're on the hills of San Francisco or Monterey, and you're so much higher than sea level, and you can look down, and the ocean seems so far away and yet so close. It's stuff like that. I understand why writers establish their stories in particular locations that feel true to them. I completely understand that. I don't think I've ever truly had a story set in San Francisco or Monterey or the Santa Cruz Bay Area, which is where I reside. But I do know, being completely honest, that sometimes those places sneak into my stories in a shape or another, under different names and under different forms. But that's kind of, I don't know, I kind of feel like that's part of life, and I don't think that it's particularly bad in a way or another, but I feel that part of that is places that I know, and places that I also love. I think that there is a certain element of connection with these things that show up in our stories. But this is more on the side of things that show up in our stories at all times, and less related to the idea of writing from personal experience. Just to revise one more time, for me, it's never really been about, events. This happened to me, so I'm gonna write a story about it. To me, it's more like, this happened to me, and this made me feel this way. Does this character also feel like this? Or can I find someone across time and space who has felt this way before as well? Stuff like that. Again, I'm not saying that one is better than the other, and I'm not even implying that there's a binary here, that you do or you do not. Everyone does what works the best for them. And again, I hope I'm making it very clear that I've never really done stuff like this. Like, the very fact that I don't think I have never, outside of games like Pokemon, named the main character after myself. Outside of games like Pokemon, I've never really done that. It's really just not a part of my identity. So again, everyone is weird and different. I was originally gonna extend this whole video and talk about the idea of write what you know, but I think I'm gonna leave that for another video, because this one has gone on for way too long. If you would like to hear my thoughts on write what you know, let me know in the comments down below. That could be a whole rambling session, but for the time being, I would like to hear what you have to say regarding this particular subject. Do you write from personal experience? Do you take from your personal experience as inspiration for events in your stories and books? I would love to hear what you have to say. Today was a fun video. It was actually really fun. And I got to get a little meta about writing, and the meta-ness of writing is really dependent on the person you are, and again, I would love to hear what you have to say. For the time being, as we're rolling into the outro, I want to let you know that if you enjoy my content and would like to make sure that I can keep on making videos like this and get cool perks along the way, please consider checking out my Patreon. And if Patreon's not your cup of coffee, well, how about a cup of tea instead? One-time donation, link in the description down below. I would really appreciate it, because I'm moving right now, and moving is really expensive. Anyhow, we're now in the formal outro. Up here, playlist, writing advice playlist, over 200 writing advice videos. That's crazy! Patreon over here, pixel face to subscribe up here, and a link to my other channel with Kitty, where we're very, very, very silly people. Thank you for tagging along, and I hope to see you on the next one.